So as you've just seen, 2023 has been a busy year politically, from coalition governments to the passing of IFP leader Mangosotho Buthelezi, President Jacob Zuma also joining the MK party, to the removal of the public protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane. SABC acting political editor Ntebo Mokobo joins us now. Ntebo, we've just had quite a comprehensive look back, but perhaps let's just start with, it's been the talk of the town, it's the latest news, the decision by former President Jacob Zuma to say that he not only endorses but the MK, but will vote for the MK. Let's look at the significance of this particular event in South African politics, but particularly the politics of the ANC.
Well, good evening, Tepiso, and good evening to the viewers at home. Yes, indeed, this is a serious political development in the country. You will recall that, the ANC in its over 110 years, it's precisely, I think, around in January, it will be celebrating its 112 years. And in that stretch of history, over a century, the ANC has never had its own president turning against the organization. This is the first time in its history where a former president is campaigning against his own party. And that on its own, it's really going to be a mammoth task for the ANC to really convince those people who still believe in the ANC that this is the right organization to vote for. You would recall, Tepiso, that former President Zuma hasn't been in good terms really with the sitting president, Cyril Ramaphosa, and that on its own has played it out on a number of occasions. You would recall that, there are a number of cases that the president, former President Zuma, has laid against the current President Ramaphosa, and that on its own has now culminated into this development where he's saying that he's not going to encourage anyone to vote for the ANC of Ramaphosa. And if you maybe to be candid and honest, if you want to dismiss Zuma, you dismiss him at your own peril. He's a serious politician in KZN, and they've decided, I think, deliberately to launch this MK, or to come here in Johannesburg, because it was he made that announcement in Johannesburg just to say to people, it's not a KZN political party, but it's a political party of South Africa. But KZN, it's not going to be business as usual in terms of campaigning on the ground, and really for the ANC to have a walk in the park in terms of getting votes in that province with the launch of MK, and with President Zuma really campaigning for the party.
And I want to ask two questions in tandem, Ntebo, because I think they're very important. One is what you've just mentioned now, what is seen as largely his support base, KZN, the former president, whether that is deliberate in terms of where he sees his power base coming from. But you mentioned the issue that he is saying he's not campaigning for the ANC of President Cyril Ramaphosa. Yet he was one of those leaders who in the past has constantly said there is no one bigger than the ANC. They are believers of collective leadership. Is this a departure from what he's always preached?
I think it's a serious departure. You see, I was in Soweto when he was addressing that gathering in Soweto in Orlando East. I wanted to pose a question to him, because there was a song he used to sing that meaning if you leave this organization, who's going to vouch for you? But as they normally say, there are no permanent friends, there are no permanent enemies, and it's really difficult to trust a politician. I think that on its own is a confirmation that there are no permanent enemies and there are no permanent friends in politics. President Zuma has been known for years. His conviction to the ANC, his love for the ANC, it has been, he has said that on countless occasions that he would never leave the ANC. But I mean, he said he's not leaving the ANC, but he would not gonna campaign for the ANC. So that on its own surprised everyone. And we tried to, some journalists tried really to pose questions to him, but he was very evasive because he said he's sick. And in January, that's when he would be able to field all the questions. So hopefully we will engage him when the year starts, when they are going to be officially launching this MK party. And that's when we can traverse these issues. I mean, ubani uzofakaza ngaye if ayishiya le nhlangano. And maybe one question that we would need to ask him again is that hypothetically speaking, if they were to leave this earth and go to the world beyond the comprehension of the living, and they happen to meet Oliver Tambo, what are they going to say, all these leaders? Because when he came to South Africa, when he came back to South Africa, Oliver Tambo, he said, I'm handing over. When he handed the ANC to Nelson Mandela, he said, I'm handing over the ANC stronger and better. And take it, build it, and for future generations.
All right, let's talk about that.
Today,
let's talk about that, Ntebo, because I also want us to lock in on other issues. An ANC that is stronger and better, obviously that is not the case. It is a fact, even from their own admission. We saw opposition parties coming together to sign a moonshot pact talking about unseating the ANC itself, exploring the issue of coalition talks. What does that spell for the opposition party, given where the ANC now? Can we say they are more united and stronger because of the demise the ANC is facing?
Well, there is a saying episode that says, for you to climb an elephant, you must wait for it when it's on its knees. I think these opposition parties have realized that the ANC is now on its knees. I mean, looking at all the inroads that some of the small political parties are making, and looking at the current status of the ANC, I think the ANC is more divided than it was maybe 10 years, 15, 20 years ago, and it's not in a good shape. For the first time in its history, its Secretary General was expelled. It has never happened in the history of the ANC where the Secretary General of the party is dismissed or was expelled. Never happened in the history of the ANC where its former president turns against his own organization. So that on its own clearly says the ANC is on its knees, and some political parties are now realizing that to climb this elephant, this is the opportune moment to climb. This is the opportune moment to unseat the ANC. And I think DA leader John Steenhuisen has realized that on his own, he will never do that. I mean, looking at his performance or the DA's performance in previous elections, that on its own doesn't come closer to what the ANC garnered. So for him to really have a substantial number of votes and percentages, he wants to have a moonshot or a multi-party multi-party forum. And he has organized all these political parties together. And if they happen to get around 30, maybe 40%, I don't think they will get that 40%, but if they happen to get a substantial number of votes, then that on its own will weaken the ANC. And if you look at the ANC, I mean, in the previous election, they got around 54%. That on its own, again, it doesn't really sit well with the ANC. Looking at the ANC at some point, that boasted around a two-thirds majority. So the ANC is not in good shape going to this election. It's very weakened. And some of the troubles or the mistakes, the own goals that some people have spoken about are really glaring in the ANC.
The passing of Ushange, the IFP leader, Dr. Prince Mangosotho Buthelezi, that was a significant moment in South African politics. But also, on the back of that, you had this unprecedented event of the courts actually making a ruling on who is the legitimate king, ruler of the Amazulu nation.
Indeed, Tsepiso, it's not just a setback for the IFP, but I think it's a setback again to the royal family, and mainly to the country's political landscape, because he was one of the eldest, I would say, People might have some differences against him, but he managed to steer the ship in the right direction, especially in the IFP's party. And of course, he has managed to help and to give guidance in the royal family. And now that is gone, and the new developments in the royal family, that on its own, again, it's going to pose a very serious threat going forward. And it's going to bring a bit of instability within the royal family. Remember, the royal family has been respected. I mean, looking at King Goodwill Zwelithini, it has been I would say there was sanity, and there has never been anything really untoward or anything bad reported about the royal family. And King Goodwill Zwelithini was a glue. He managed to bring the royal family together, helped by Dr. Mangosotho Buthelezi. And now that the two of them are gone, that on its own, again, I think it's a blow just to the IFP and even to the royal family.
Ntebo, it's such a pity we have run out of time, because I was hoping we'd touch on the politicization of the Office of the Public Protector, whether this is a new era, but I'm sure you and I will catch up on that on some time. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed catching up with you. Ntebo Mokobo, SABC acting political editor.